I'm Tammy Bridges. I'm at Marysville Museum and Gallery in Marysville, Montana. We're open on the weekends from noon to 4. We just started this several years ago, 2014, trying to bring preservation to the history of Marysville. We also have the cemetery and the little Schaefer house that we try to, through donations, keep up the restoration and maintenance of these buildings. Kind of began back in about 1862 when they first discovered gold, and it didn't really become too big until 20 years later. But Tom Cruise pretty much is the guy that brought Marysville to life, and Marysville was named after Mary Ralston, which in fact those people are going to, her descendants are going to be here next weekend, which will be really cool. So they can learn more about the history of herself. But he kind of put Marysville on the map, and he was one of the people that was a huge benefactor for the cathedral and the Capitol. Without him, those projects probably would have never have taken place. But Marysville was huge as far as Helena, and the money that came out of Marysville that could build certain things in Helena. But as it is today, the mine has been open and closed, I can't even count how many times. And it recently closed, I think back in 2012 it could have been, and because of flooding, water, and gold prices, plummeted, so it pretty much dried up again. But there are 88 residents or a little bit more in the town of Marysville, so it's not really a ghost town as much as everyone would like to think. But it's a thriving little town, and we're just trying to build on it. Yeah, it used to be the schoolhouse, and we hold the Pioneer member picnic meetings here, and once a year we have a Pioneer picnic for fundraising that does, the fundraiser for preservation and restoration of these buildings. But this used to be the old schoolhouse. It used to be a grade school and a high school. It used to be a two-story building, but now it's down to the one because of it was falling apart. They had to do something, so they took the upper level off and a back level, and this is what's the remainder of it. And we turned this into the museum and gallery, like I said, from 2014 to generate more revenue, to bring something more back to the town of Marysville and promote the history that's here and preserve that. That's our main goal. There's a lot of things that, since we've built these little storefronts, people are donating back some of the items that they have found in the town. And so it's like, I said earlier, you build it, they will come. And, that's what's happening. We're getting a lot more authentic Marysville historical documents, photos, artifacts, donated back, into Marysville. There's a couple items over here that are such a featured item that came out of the Drum Woman mine, a sinking bucket that the miners dug up and donated back to, here, the assay office, the actual sample crusher from back in the 1800s. We have that came out of one of the buildings over here. So there's some really cool artifacts in here that's worthwhile coming to see. What's interesting is history does repeat itself after reading some of the newspapers, some of the laws that they created, profanity, and you have to start cleaning up. There was no infrastructure, back in the day. They were tired of people throwing their garbage and wastewater out into the streets, and so, people started saying, hey, we got to, start having rules and, regulations around here, and of course that's how laws and rules and regulations start, but just the start of a new town and the development of it and what they go through. You see the same thing today in Helena. You go from throwing it out into the street to recycling. It's you got to keep things. They wanted to keep things tight back then too. But there's just it's interesting reading about the history and what they did back in the day. Since we took this over, there's so much that is lost. People that have donated that they'll say, oh, pictures donated by so-and-so, but it's like, okay, who's that person? And so that just it makes me try to find out who that person was. And I mean, that history's gone. So if you don't start preserving it now, that history's going to be gone out of the town. And there's a lot of information here that we're still piecing together. We go through daily to try to bring it all back. But it's a job. The tremendous support of this community and the volunteers that we've had, I couldn't do it myself, but I'm the driving force behind it, and I really want to. Every year it seems like we have more volunteers, we have more involvement with it because they're seeing how important it is to preserve, the history of their town. You can't just sit back and do nothing. If you do, then you'll lose it. If you don't do something, it'll be lost. And that's what we're trying to, piece it all together and preserve it.